Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Kiddos, you're listening to The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You want to get in touch with me? You got two ways. 1-888-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776, or test your luck, Playboy, on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Clinton Yates. Top of the hour, you know the routine. If you come incorrect in my mentions, I will embarrass you in front of your friends and your family, and I will not apologize. That said, let's get to the gridiron. It was a weird little game yesterday. First of all, Thursday Night Football is actually turning into something we're supposed to care about now, which is messing up my whole social life, if I'm being very honest. I ain't got that kind of time to really be dedicating to the NFL. I got Sundays, I got Mondays. Now I'm really actually focused on Thursdays, but that's a different discussion. Last night, the Chiefs and the Raiders played. Raiders ended up winning the game, as I told y'all they would do yesterday on this radio program. You're welcome. Last-second situation, 2 untimed downs. A game the Raiders had to have to save the season. Derek Carr's back. The Chiefs have now lost 2 in a row. And that's an important game for the Chiefs from a divisional standpoint. All right, they might be the best team in the NFL in some people's minds, but from the conference outlook, the Steelers, the Pats are still lurking, and the AFC West is still a good division. They needed this. They didn't get it. Anyway, there was a very oddball situation that unfolded with one Marshawn Lynch. Now, yesterday I was talking about how much I love Marshawn Lynch. His new reality show is dope. He's showing some emotion. He's showing a side of himself that we hadn't seen before on his little Facebook show. And I don't want to say that we hadn't seen before, that we maybe just didn't necessarily know was so good once harnessed. And sure enough, yesterday he does something that most people said, oh, there goes beast mode, acting out. Lynch ran off the sideline and into a scrum after Chiefs cornerback Marcus Peters hit Derek Carr late and drew a flag. Now, at that point, a bunch of Raiders offensive linemen went after Peters, who is like he's a friend of Lynch's. In the streets, he would call themselves play cousins. But then Lynch then hit a ref, grabbed his jersey or shirt or whatever you want to call it, the zebra stripes, and sort of pushed him off. Now, look, that comes with a fine, upwards of $30,000. And he could also get suspended for coming off the bench. And that would cost him a game check, which is in the $80,000 territory. Don't come at me with your little jokes about how that was the longest run he had all night. We're smarter than that, and we're funnier than that here. Anyway, he gets ejected from the game. And then he just put his clothes on and chilled in the crowd, which was a whole other thing. Now, there's a couple factors about this that are really, I don't want to say strange, but are probably very difficult for the Raiders to deal with, but I think ultimately is a Marshawn Lynch problem. And I don't mean problem like catastrophe. This is not a hashtag outrage situation. But here's why I feel this way. This was supposed to be Marshawn Lynch's sort of swan song. This whole Facebook show we're talking about, coming back to the Bay, repping for his city, the Raiders are pretty good. Y'all have heard me on these airwaves and other airwaves saying that I thought that he was going to run them into the Super Bowl and right on into the desert. This is not a good look for beast mode. Not remotely. Let's hear the radio call from 95.7 FM, The Game, KGMZ, from this incident.
A quarterback draw to Derek Carr. What are they doing here? Alan Bailey stands him up, and now they bury him down. They're going to get a personal foul on D. Ford as the Chiefs are trying to hurt Derek Carr. Marcus Peters slammed into him, and now we got a little bit of a pushing and shoving. The Raiders are unhappy as Marcus Peters. Now another flag comes in.
Hey, I'm just going to let you guys know Marshawn Lynch ran in from the sidelines. If they find that, they want to throw him.
You want to add his guy Marcus Peters.
Go kick him out of the game.
Again, that was from 95.7 FM, The Game, KGMZ. Now, again, first of all, the fact that he's defending a friend who's not a teammate on the field, I don't have a huge issue with that. It's just a little oddball, I think, in terms of what we're normally used to seeing in on-field Donniebrooks, if you will. That was a little strange, I think, for most people to process. Not the biggest deal in the world. If he's fam, he's fam. He ain't trying to see him get messed up. But also, I can't think of the last time I saw somebody dart off a sideline in a football game to get into a scrum. It was one of those things where I was like, I mean, maybe my memory is not serving me well here, and perhaps there have been many incidents that I'm just not familiar with. But that was a very unusual sight, in my personal opinion, to see him firing off the line to go just sort of stand people up and hit referees. The visual vocabulary of that was very funky to me. Let's hear what Jack Del Rio, Raiders head coach, had to say in the press conference about Marshawn's actions.
I was disappointed that he ran out, because I knew that we had a 15-yard penalty and we were going to be in good shape. I didn't get a chance to have a conversation about it. I told him, you can't leave the bench like that, and that was about it. Next thing I knew, he was being tossed. The ref told me that he actually had put his hands on him.
You're listening to The Right Time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday on ESPN Radio. That was Jack Del Rio, Raiders head coach. Pretty straightforward, plain Jane there. But ultimately, I don't want to go so far as to say I'm disappointed in Marshawn, because, I don't know him. He don't care about what I think. But at the same time, I was really rooting for this to be the season where anybody who chose not to like him sort of was forced out of that opinion. And now I feel like a lot of folks are kind of in this, the same old Marshawn. People had issues with him dancing on the sideline, people in the NFL, people elsewhere. I love that kind of stuff. But this was not a good look. On any level. And it's not that it's indefensible. That's not what it's about. But it was a series of really bad decisions, I feel like, in terms of himself. Now, if you're the Raiders, what do you say? Hey, you can't do that? I don't think this is some huge institutional problem for the Oakland Raiders. I think this is Marshawn, and I hate to use this word because it sounds so gasbaggy, as Lebatard would say. There's a legacy issue here, which is that, are we going to remember Marshawn for being the tough guy eating Skittles who ripped off one of the best runs in NFL playoff history in Seattle? The guy who probably should have gotten the ball and they would have had another Super Bowl ring? Or are we going to remember him as a guy that went back to his hometown and started doing a bunch of nonsense for a Raiders team that ultimately, I don't want to say underachieved because Derek Carr has been injured, but for a Raiders team that ultimately didn't live up to what people thought they could be? Again, as I've said before, you don't erase the whole chalkboard just because you add one new thing. Chalkboard, that sounds like I'm a 90-year-old man. Smartboard. But this is not, I don't like the way this is trending. I don't want to see Marshawn get into a situation where it is suddenly not about the football anymore. Number one, I think they need him, at least in some capacity, to be a better rusher, and he had a not great game. And secondarily, I understood him to be sort of the vocal leader and heart and soul of that team. And if that's who he's going to be for the Raiders and for Oakland, okay. Oakland trumps all, meaning even if you're on the other team, it's Oaktown. Look, I get and I understand that, but I also don't know how I would take that if I was a teammate of his. Marshawn Lynch could have been a great story. Still has potential to be such. I would call what happened last night a setback at worst. Weird play, gonna get fined, not something you want to see from a guy that's supposed to be effectively your player, and I don't want to use the word mascot because that's foul, but your representative and your ambassador on top of your running back. Coming up, who had the more compelling post-game analysis, y'all? My man Patty Beverly or LeVar Ball? We'll figure that out. We got a lot of guests, I'll reset those when we get back. I'm Clinton Yates. You're listening to The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
To The Right Time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. You might know me from either The Undefeated or right here on ESPN Radio or Around the Horn. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Hit me up, y'all. 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776, or on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at ESPN Radio, at Clinton Yates. Right now, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Let me lay some things out for y'all regarding what happened last night in Los Angeles. There's a couple different things at play here, per usual. Number one is the Clips played the Lakers. Clearly, LeVar Ball's son, Lonzo, in his first professional game in the regular season. This is obviously a big storyline in Los Angeles. This is a big storyline in the NBA as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm obviously on record as being a fan of their operation. Be it the Big Baller brand, be it their show, Ball in the Family, good show, by the by. Be it the fact that LeVar is a dude that had a vision for his children and his family. He's trying to execute that. The Baldashians are hopefully going to come to fruition at some point. That's a slightly different discussion. I do not like the way that he has been known to treat women in certain situations. That has been very problematic. So you get your ups and downs. But I've always been honest about how I feel about LeVar Ball. For the most part, I like him. I also understand what he's doing with his antics. Here's the problem. LeVar Ball is not in the NBA. Lonzo is in the NBA. So Lonzo is basically, with his body, cashing the checks from LeVar's mouth, which was to be expected. But when you run into somebody like the homie Patty Beverly, you got a problem, fam. Because Patty Beverly don't play. Patty Beverly is, according to the old Negro proverb, bout that action, boss. He ain't messing around. Further to the point, I love Patty Beverly. The way he plays the game is a way that I enjoy tremendously. Very actively loud, very actively mean. Not here for the nonsense. You can probably figure out why I'm such a big fan. You ain't getting no kind of psychological edge on Patty Beverly. I don't care how many sneakers you're selling on TV or how high you got picked. This is what we like to call a bad psychological matchup. And Lonzo Ball lost big time. Patty dominated that game, embarrassed him physically. So much so that LeVar had to jump in and start trying to defend Lonzo. He went on SportsCenter, talking with Stephen A. It got a little out of control. He was doing the shtick. That was fine. But understand something. Everybody's going to give their best shot to Lonzo Ball, but everybody ain't Patty Beverly. There ain't a whole lot of dudes in the league that are going to hit you in the mouth like him. So while some guys might try to beat him up, some guys might try to psychologically dominate, they ain't Patty Beverly. Not remotely. Let's hear LeVar Ball on SportsCenter when he jumped into this hit with Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, we interrupt our regularly scheduled programming to bring you LeVar Ball with Stephen A.
Listen, this man was about to leave the building, but he saw me, decided he wanted to interrupt the SportsCenter proceedings to make a point. Excuse me, you had some explaining to do. 3 points on 1 for 6 shooting for the man who happens to be your son. He's got a lot of promise, but tonight was not a great night. You said it was going to be a great opening night.
It was a great opening night.
What? How? Explain.
Big Baller brand went up.
12%. It's always good. Even when you lose, I win. You see what I'm saying? Big baller brand, we here to stay. I tell you what, Lonzo did good.
How? What game were you watching? How did he do good tonight? Well, how did he do good tonight? Explain that, Mr. Coach.
Rebounds.
Really?
Physical.
Really?
On a bad foot.
Did you not say, oh, there's a bad foot now? That's where we going? That's where we going? Listen, don't start. Don't you start. Did you ain't move?
What is that?
Listen, Patrick Beverly got all over your son. He drank all over your son.
What did Patrick Beverly have? What do you have?
All right, you heard all that. Your two uncles drinking Henny at the cookout in the backyard, talking trash. That was basically what that was. By the way, I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones here on the Right Time on ESPN Radio. LeVar's nonsense has its place in their system. I don't know if I need that after every game. Like, if it makes me laugh, it makes me laugh. That didn't make me laugh. But I also don't know that I consider this a big problem. You know, I'm not bothered by his presence. But I am bothered by his dismissive attitude of the aforementioned Patty Beverly. First of all, when my man played for the Rockets, the Arugulas, sidebar, for those of you who asked me about why I call the Rockets the Arugulas, it's because the Brits call it rocket, like the plant. Back to the point. When Patty Beverly played for the Arugulas, he was a tremendous lockdown defender. He is a nice pickup for the Clippers. Don't be out here talking about who is Patty Beverly. I think you found out in very short order who he is. Matter of fact, let's hear what Patty Beverly had to say about Lonzo Ball.
I just had to set the tone, man. You know, I told him out the game, man, due to, you know, all the riffraff his dad brings, that he's gonna get a lot of people coming at him. You know, he has to be ready for that, and I let him know after the game. But, you know, what a better way to start with Mr. 94-feet guard tonight, you know, is...
Man, how much do you embrace it?
I'm not done. Welcome to the little young NBA.
I can't even explain to you guys how much I love Patty Beverly. When I was a 17-year-old playing high school basketball, thinking it was the center of when it was the center of my whole life, that's exactly how I acted. I was a total jerk, actively trying to annoy everybody at all times on the other team. A lot of loud yelling, a lot of screaming at the other team's coach because he can't really yell back because that's foul when you're in high school. Patty Beverly is my spirit animal in a sports sense on a lot of levels. So when my man comes in talking about I had to set the tone, oh, I love it. I love it. But also, you see how respectful he was about the situation. He said, I told him that after the game. A lot of people are going to be coming for you. Basically saying, it's just business, young blood. This is how I do. Who is Patty Beverly? Patty Beverly is the dude that won the psychological battle last night over both Lonzo and LeVar Ball. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, the Dodgers are going to their first World Series since 1988. What were you doing in 1988? I know what I was doing, eating Lucky Charms. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on the Right Time on ESPN Radio. If you travel for business, you know it's a game of wins and losses. Popping open an overhead bin and finding it empty, that's a win, fam. Sleeping through a wake-up call, that is an L. Buying your business trip at Upside.com, well, that's not just a win, it's a triple win. Number one is Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotels, and rental cars. Number two win is that Upside will reward you with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. And number three is the amazing 6-star treatment from Upside's customer service specialist, who they call Navigators. Upside Navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 on the Upside app, even reaching out to you to help you avoid a problem before it happens. And I'm going to start your Upside 6-star treatment right now. Go to Upside.com and use my code BOMANI, and you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. That's code BOMANI for a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. Upside, better business trip, minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Welcome back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on the right time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You want to hit me up? 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Or, if you want to flip the coin, kid, come get destroyed, you can hit me up on the 100 Flowers Twitter line, at ESPN Radio, at Clinton Yates. It's time to talk baseball, y'all. The Dodgers looked pretty good last night. I mean, for those of you who thought that the Cubs were going to get back into this, that didn't happen. They officially got banged out last night. And the Dodgers did it in a way that not only that I liked, but it showed me that this team is definitely World Series material in terms of being able to win it. It's their 19th World Series appearance. That's tied with the Cardinals for the third most all time. They won by 10 runs. All right, that's the largest road win to clinch a pennant in postseason history. Think about that. Kershaw looked good. That's what you always worry about with the Dodgers. Is Kershaw going to blow up and create a problem? That didn't happen. 6 innings pitched. Gave a 1 run and 3 scattered. Insert baseball jargon here, Shannon. Scattered 3 hits. 3 hits a little low for a scattering, if you will.
All right, but
anyway,
it doesn't matter if you can allow 15 hits, but if you win, you scattered 15 hits over 9 innings.
Exactly. The Dodgers have won 7 of his last 8 postseason starts. Sidebar, it was the 3rd straight season the NL pennant was clinched at Wrigley Field. Mets, Cubs, Dodgers, in that order. Cubs went 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position this series. And from Elias, the only other team in postseason history to finish a best-of-7 series hitless with runners in scoring position was the Dodgers, who went 0 for 22 in those situations in the 1966 World Series, a.k.a. the black and white TV era. So this leads me to another question that I want to answer. Are we rooting for Dodgers-Yankees as a thing? Like, do we as America, as baseball fans across the nation, do we need a double big market situation with teams going bada bing all the way over West Coast to East Coast? Personally, I think we do. I think that because of the way we sort of looked at baseball this year, and there was sort of this realization by a lot of people in a lot of mainstream places that this is really just a regional sport, effectively until you get to the playoffs. A big-time, big-market World Series is something that I think MLB could use. Now, do I think that's going to happen? That's a different discussion. I picked the Stros in that series, so, I don't think it will. And that's not to knock Houston, by the way. Houston is a massive place. Houston is like the 5th biggest city in America, but somehow it's like the 7th biggest media market, which is a whole other thing. But anyway, Houston still, as far as baseball is concerned, not nearly the market, obviously, that LA or New York is. But LA's good, man. And you know what? LA should be good. You know why they should be good? Because their payroll is insane. $242 million. Which, okay, on its own might not mean much to you. Unless you know how much more they are than the second team in payroll. Like, it's one thing to just say, okay, they're first. Dog, their payroll is $40 million higher than the New York Yankees, who are at $201 million. If you're smoking the next team by $40-odd million, whoa, you better make the World Series.
It was a funny little nugget that I read early in the week that if the Yankees do make it to the World Series and it's Yankees-Dodgers, it'll be the first time since 1976 that the Yankees would have played somebody in the World Series whose payroll was higher than the Yankees.
Huh. That's a nice nugget. 1976?
Yeah. I think it was the Reds.
It was the Reds. Okay. But, yeah, the Dodgers are burning cash. And it's working. Man, they got an interesting little squad, though, man. Justin Turner. That dude, Chris Taylor, started off did you see that? Did you watch the game yesterday? I mean, it starts off the game with a 9-pitch walk. I'm like, oh. That's the kind of thing where you're an infielder and you're like, dog, get this guy. Not trying to start the game with extended PAs, plate appearances, that is, to lull me to sleep off top. It's great. Great work there. But ultimately, Shannon, do you think Dodgers-Yankees is what Major League Baseball needs to rekindle a little something in the World Series?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, taking nothing from the Cubs, we know how great of an organization that the Cubs are, but it feels like the Cubs, especially with them winning last year, that was the story. You know, had they gone back to the World Series again this year, yeah, it would have been cool, especially if they faced the Yankees. But, like, we saw them win. Like, they got over that hurdle. We saw that. But now that you have the Dodgers in the World Series, as you said, first time since '88, and if they do happen to face the Yankees, that's amazing. That's Yankees-Dodgers. Just say that. That's Yankees-Dodgers. Taking aside from the L.A.-New York thing, that's Yankees-Dodgers. And for the baseball purists, it can't get any better than that.
It doesn't.
Not to mention, it's something new. It's, having the Dodgers in the World Series is something that's absolutely new. I like to make a lot of analogies to professional wrestling, but this would be the equivalent to going from WrestleMania 5 to WrestleMania 6. Yeah, WrestleMania 5, when you had the Mega Powers collide, when you had Hogan and Macho Man, that was a great thing, but it paled in comparison to WrestleMania 6 when you then had Ultimate Warrior and Hogan. It's like, you got to change it up. You still had Hogan in the championship, but you had to switch it up. So that's what you would have now with the Dodgers. The Dodgers would be this year's Ultimate Warrior, juxtaposed to the Cubs being Macho Man, who won it the year previously, like Macho Man did in WrestleMania 4. Boom.
I'm going to let you cook on that, fam. That's all you. That's when you throw the lob, like the half-court jump, and dude doesn't just grab it, grabs it, windmills it, bangs it, and then smacks the backboard. That was well played, Shannon. I like that. I think it would be a good thing, too. The Dodgers have couple stars. Their manager might even be their biggest star in many ways. A lot of people remember him from the World Series, stealing bags with the Red Sox. Brother, by the way, not lost on me. Clayton Kershaw getting back in the form is something I like. I would have been very upset if they had to squeak by with Kershaw struggling. That would not have been good for the overall situation. When that dude is on, he is one of the best pitchers to ever do it. There's no doubt about it. I don't think the Yankees will win. I'm not rooting for the Yankees. But I think the best case scenario for America in the World Series is Dodgers-Yankees. In fantasy football, you're never guaranteed to win, but you know what's always a chip shot? Surprising loved ones with 36 autumn roses for just $36 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Coming up, Johnny B. Baker, you know him as Dusty, will not be back in D.C. as manager of the Nationals. Your boy has a whole lot to say about that. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones. It's the right time on ESPN Radio. If you've got goals, GNC's got the protein for you. GNC Amp Weightbolic is clinically proven to increase muscle size and strength in just 8 weeks. Total Lean is the most comprehensive line of weight management protein, and GNC has the best from popular brands like Optimum and MuscleTech, and in-store exclusives like from Ghost and Performix. Try all the awesome, great-tasting flavors like cereal milk, Tahitian vanilla, Fruity Charms, and Fudge Brownie. You can save big with GNC's Beat 'em by a Buck price match guarantee. Find the right protein formula for your goal at GNC.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Welcome back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday, and we're presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on The Right Time up here via the Shell Penzo Performance Line. If you want to call me 888-729-3776. That's 1-888-ESPN. Or you can hit us up on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Clinton Yates. Don't be a coward and hit up Shannon about what I'm saying because you're afraid to jump in the Menchie's because you know the chopper stays loaded. Talking about $92 million on the Dodgers penalty tax. You think I don't know that? The whole point is that they got that kind of cash to be absorbing. Guys can just retire with crazy contracts. They're still $40 million higher than the Yankees, all right? Dodgers got crazy money. Just wanted to address that point. Anyway, I'm a little fired up because Nats Twitter has been out of control all day in D.C. The Nationals decided that they did not want to renew Dusty Baker's contract. 2 division titles. No NLCS. Boom, you're done. You might recall that a week ago, I told y'all on Around the Horn that this was the move to make. Look at that, fam. It happened. You're welcome. Anyway, this is a multi-pronged situation for Nationals land. Number one, the decision to get rid of Dusty in a vacuum is understandable, and I'm fine with it. Couldn't get you past where you thought you needed to go. He only had a 2-year contract anyway. You can sort of discuss the sidebar of how he got there if you remember the Bud Black nonsense. I don't want to get all into that because I don't want to get mad. But the merits of the 2-year contract are what they are. Point is, his contract was up. I can understand going in a different direction considering it is somewhat of a clean break. The second point of discussion is the fact that overall, we're moving to way too many managers for the Nats in general. They're burning through dudes at a 1.5, 2-season clip. That ain't good for business. And number 3 is the largest of all the problems, which is the ownership group of the learners doing too much. Now, Dusty was not happy about the decision, which is understandable. But he said in a statement they waited 10 days to holler at him. He told them, yo, I'm going out of town. Why don't you let me know what's going on? They waited till he got out of town, and they said, nah, thanks, but no thanks. More importantly than that even, Mike Rizzo, the man who runs the baseball in D.C., was overruled by the ownership about keeping Dusty. Now, I don't know about you, but if it's my job to make sure that I control who manages the team and who's on the team, and I get big-footed by the owner, I'm probably guessing that the writing is on the wall for my departure sometime soon, too, and that would be an even worse decision than getting rid of Dusty, in my personal opinion. Rizzo's last contract year is next year. Bryce's last year is next year. And, let us not forget about the little wrinkle. There is a gift under the tree. For those of you Christmas normative listeners, a little thing I like to call the All-Star Game is happening in the District of Columbia next year. I sort of thought that might keep Dusty a job because I know how big of a deal that's going to be to the franchise. I imagine I'll hear about it every single at-bat of every single game next season. And bringing in a new guy when you're trying to show what you've been doing over all these years, Shannon, you see what I'm saying?
It seems as though whether it's baseball or the NBA, lots of times when you're that franchise that's hosting the All-Star Game, that really is your chance to show what your organization has been doing the last couple of years, to show where you are. It's kind of a state of the organization.
Yes. Yes. And you know what the state of the organization is right now? It's a mess, fam. ISSAMESS. It's a mess. Too much going on with owners, bigfooting people. Stop doing that, learners. It's bad for business. The Right Time is brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Coming up, Arash, Markazi, ESPN senior writer. I'm Clinton Yates. It's The Right Time on ESPN Radio. Happy Friday, kiddos.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back Monday for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Welcome to The Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday, and ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can hit me up one of two ways. 1-888-SAY-ESPN, 1-888-729-3776. Or you can try your luck on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed. At ESPN Radio, at Clinton Yates. It's the top of the hour, so you know the disclaimer. If you come incorrect in my mentions, I will embarrass you in front of your friends and your family, and I will not apologize. Those are the rules. Deal with it. Joining us right now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line is Arash Markazi, ESPN senior writer. He was at the Staples Center last night, a.k.a. Beverly versus Ball and Ball. Give me a little bit, Arash, about what the vibe was like going into this, long before anything transpired on the court.
I knew there was a little bit of bad blood because of what LeVar Ball had said. And, Patrick Beverly just in general has a chip on his shoulder. So if someone comes into the league and is being hyped as, the second coming and the best point guard in Los Angeles and all this stuff, he felt the need to kind of show him, hey, you played amongst adults now. You're playing in the NBA. That's not how we roll. And so, he gave him a little forearm shiver in the first half. And, I kind of thought that was it. And then I'm in the corridor leading into the Clippers locker room after the game, and Patrick Beverly's screaming a lot of obscenities that I can't repeat. But essentially, don't come at me with that. You're weak. Whatnot. Again, a lot of profanities. And, it really kind of drove home that this was a game that Pat Beverly wanted to show Lonzo Ball, and really his father, who was sitting one row behind courtside. This isn't UCLA. This isn't Chino Hills. This is the NBA.
I got to explain something to you, though. I love Patty Beverly. Like on a personal level, I'm a monster fan of his approach to basketball in many ways. So I just want you to know that I'm here for that. What I will ask, though, beyond that, just quickly before we get back to all this other stuff, what was this game like outside of the Ball versus Beverly matchup in terms of what you saw from the Lakers and what you saw from the Clippers?
From the Lakers, I kind of saw what I thought I would see. I mean, you don't want to put too much emphasis on practices in the preseason, but they haven't looked that good, and they're a young team. Listen, Lonzo Ball's 19 years old, but there was this expectation in Los Angeles that maybe the Lakers have caught up with the Clippers. Maybe it's a coin flip to see who the best team in Los Angeles is, and I never saw it like that. I mean, again, this is a team that's being built to kind of compete for these free agents next summer. I mean, I think they're going to get worse before they improve this year. I mean, I think we're going to see a couple of trades during the course of this year so the Lakers can be in a position next summer to offer two max deals. So, again, this was an extension of practice. This was an extension of preseason where this is a young team, may at some point be a decent team, but they're not a good team right now. And the Clippers, listen, if they stay healthy, listen, they're no longer contending for anything, but I think they can contend for that 6th seed and be a playoff team. So, yeah.
We're talking with Arash Markazi, ESPN senior writer out in L.A. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on The Right Time on ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll compare rates for you so you get the best deal, even if it's not with us, saving you time and money. Now, that's Progressive. Call or click today. Back to the Balls. You saw his little interview, and by his, I mean LeVar's on SportsCenter. I'm not guessing we're going to get this kind of nonsense, even though I like LeVar after every game. What do you think about the precedent being set here on two levels? Because, number one, okay, if you don't like LeVar, this is going to get real annoying real fast. But number two, not everybody in the league is Patty Beverly. He's not going to be going up, and by him I mean Lonzo, going up against guys with that kind of psychological edge every night. Do you think LeVar is actually going to be any sort of a problem down the line for home games for his son?
My guess is that whether it's by someone within the Lakers or someone within his family, I think they will say, hey, listen, we are where we want it to be. He's with the Lakers. He's got the shoe going. We got the money. We got the reality show. Let's not make life harder for Lonzo. And so, listen, I think the hype, the SportsCenter interview, all that had to do with it being the first game of the season. I don't think we're going to get that attention with every single game. The problem is, though, if an opposing player says, hey, listen, I'm coming after Lonzo because of LeVar, the normal reaction is, if LeVar is at the game, to go talk to LeVar. And the normal reaction of LeVar is not to back down, is to say something. So you're putting more gasoline on the fire. And, again, I just would hope for Lonzo's sake that his dad appreciates, listen, he's in the league. He's playing with the Lakers. We don't need to go toe-to-toe with every guy he's going up against. And so I don't know if it's someone within his family, someone within the team saying, hey, listen, let's just calm down a little bit. And I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But, again, a lot of attention was placed on this just because it was the first game of the season.
Arash Markazi joins us on the show. Pennzoil Performance Line. He's an ESPN senior writer in Los Angeles. Let's switch gears here a little bit. We're going to go NFL, then we're going to get to the World Series. Let's start with what's going on with the Rams. Obviously, the Chargers are a non-issue.
But they got the best offense, yeah.
Go ahead, my bad.
Hello? I'm sorry, no. I was just saying, I think they got a great offense. It'll be interesting. That trip to London's always a tough one. That's always a tough game for them. So I don't know how they're going to respond to that long trip to London. But I think finally Los Angeles may have an NFL team that they can actually watch and care about. Because last year the Rams were 4-10. They were a terrible team to watch.
So what's the deal with the Chargers? I mean, I got to ask because you're out there. In terms of walking around interest level, I mean, where do they stand in terms of this move, and how bad is this on the ground every Sunday for them?
Yeah, Clint, the problem with them is that nobody in Los Angeles wanted them. And so I think we wanted the NFL back. We wanted the Raiders back. They're the most popular team in Los Angeles. And if not the Raiders, then the Rams. The Rams have a 50-year history here. There are some fans. The Chargers, that's San Diego's team. I know that they played one season here back in 1960, but that's San Diego's team. I mean, that would be essentially like moving the San Diego Padres to Los Angeles and wondering why don't Los Angeles fans care about the Padres? Well, they are San Diego's team, and if we really wanted to watch them play, we would take a 2-hour drive or a 2-hour train ride to San Diego to watch them. And so and I don't know if they will ever fully be embraced. Now, for that to even happen, they have to win, but that's not a team Los Angeles wanted. And so the fact that they can't attract fans and no one's really talking about them is not surprising, just because people in Los Angeles did not want the Chargers.
Well, that was a failed experiment. Good job, NFL. Let's switch gears to Major League Baseball. The Dodgers obviously banged out the Cubs last night, won the pennant, did it in great fashion. Kershaw looked good. They're finally, I wouldn't say finally, but they're justifying that crazy payroll. Do you think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series?
I think so. I think the way that they're playing right now is the way that we saw them playing during the summer when they had that crazy run where they were 52-9 or something like that. I mean, they're finally playing like that. The bullpen is playing well. The starting pitchers, the lineup. I mean, the way that they're playing is really kind of, again, what we saw during the summer. So whether it's the Yankees or the Houston Astros, I think they are going to win. It's going to be crazy if it's the Dodgers and Yankees. I mean, Clinton, if you look on StubHub right now, the cheapest ticket, the get-in price at Dodger Stadium is $1,000. And so I would imagine if it's the Dodgers, Yankees, that price will only go up.
Wow. That's big-time money. That's Shannon money. I ain't got that kind of cash. So let me ask you this, though. They haven't been there since 88. I was 7 years old in 88. Kirk Gibson, obviously, or Hershiser, all that. This is going to sound like a trite question, but how big of a deal is this? if this actually happens in terms of the Dodger fan base, in terms of L.A. in general, if they manage to get another ring.
Yeah, so there's the second most popular team in Los Angeles. It's the Lakers and then the Dodgers. The problem for the Dodgers is they signed this new, TV deal a couple of years ago where 70% of Los Angeles are not watching the games. If you have DirecTV or some other provider, you are not watching the Dodger home games. However, they have led the league in attendance, so that hasn't hurt them in the pocketbooks that much. If they win the World Series and we get a parade down Los Angeles, I think once again they will be talked about as, a 1 and 1A. Again, this is a Lakers-Dodgers town, and there's a big drop-off after that. So if they finally win a championship for the first time in 29 years, I think they will once again be talked about as, one of these signature teams in this town. Because, again, when you don't win for 29 years, it's sort of like for years and years and years I was just hearing about Kirk Gibson and Oral Hershiser and Tommy Lasorda, and that's great and all. But there's a whole generation of fans who have never seen this team compete and win a World Series title.
He's Arash Markazi. You can find him on Twitter at his name. He's an ESPN senior writer in Los Angeles. Thank you, Arash.
Thanks, Clinton.
No problem. Coming up, the homie Aaron Dodson from The Undefeated joins us. We're going to talk about movies. Nick Cannon is hilarious. AA's coming up next. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones. It's The Right Time on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. On set line right now is the homie Aaron Dodson from The Undefeated. AA, what's good?
What's up, brother? How's it going?
Things are going well. You might know Aaron from his work writing as well as his features on SportsCenter on Saturday morning. But right now, we got to talk about the latest thing he wrote. Headline, Halftime is Game Time, an oral history of Drumline. Tell me a little bit about your personal history with the movie Drumline, because it's 15 years old and you ain't that old.
So, yeah, it came out in 2002, which means I was only 9 years old. But I grew up in a concert band. I played the trumpet, and I just remember vividly seeing that movie and loving it. I was attracted to the band aspect of it because there hadn't really been a film before that about a marching band. I just remember falling in love with Devin Miles, the character of Devin Miles, played by Nick Cannon, and that was one of his first big movie roles. And it's just a pretty epic film that I really cherish from my childhood.
I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that this was sort of not exactly a mainstream movie, but it was a movie that introduced a lot of, frankly, white America to what band culture is, not just in high school, but at HBCUs as well. You touch on that in a little bit in the oral history. Explain some of that background for me.
Definitely. I mean, this was a Fox 2000 picture, so it was kind of a low-budget film. Director Charles Stone needed $20 million to make the movie. They only budgeted for $13 million to begin with, and they wouldn't give them extra money until they actually added a white character to the film, which I found very interesting. That had never really been reported before, and some of the producers and Charles Stone kind of told me that in passing, and I just find it interesting that the character of Jason Fleur, they had to add him to the script to get this extra money in the budget to make this film and introduce this culture to a lot of people.
We're talking with Aaron Dodson of The Undefeated here on The Right Time. Clinton Yates filling in here on a Friday. Headline, Halftime is Game Time, the oral history of Drumline. Oral history sometimes can be interesting because talking to all the characters, you don't necessarily get all love from everybody. It felt like throughout this, there was some controversy. It was not an easy movie to make for anybody involved. What were some of the things you learned about the sort of process of how this film was made that were not, quite as easygoing as they could have been?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway is all the rigorous training that these actors went through to kind of embody and emulate a Southern HBCU show-style marching band. Because I talked to Nick Cannon's drum double in the film, and he was saying that because there's real drummers in the film, and they saw these actors come on set, and they're like, what is this? What is this? What is going on? I mean, you guys are trying to make a movie about HBCU bands, and you're having actors instead of real drummers. So there was a little bit of controversy in terms of the training, but all the actors went through it and ended up doing well in terms of on the screen when the film was rolling.
As a quick aside, for you personally, as somebody that was in band, I mean, I say that there's this sort of stigma about that, except in the black community where, like, if you're in a band, you're dope. But I guess I'm asking you, how do you think this movie holds up? Because, like, it's on VH1 now, and I watch it because it's got cool, like, the solo scenes and all that. But for you, is this still a flick you check out when it's on every once in a while?
Yeah, to be honest, I watch it every time it comes on VH1 or TBS, and I think it's held up really well. And a lot of the actors and the producers and director Charles Stone kind of realized that. Dallas Austin, who's the Atlanta music super producer, he inspired the film, and he kind of said that before Drumline, a lot of people thought that people in bands were nerds, they were uncool, but this movie kind of made it seem like and showed the world and showed the people that to be in a drumline, to be in a marching band, you have a lot of rhythm, and you're a cool cat to be in the band. And that's why I think the film has really held up over the last 15 years.
Aaron Dodson of The Undefeated joins us here. We're talking about his oral history of the movie Drumline. What was the most shocking thing you learned about this film overall, besides the fact that they had to insert a white character in order to get $8 million more bucks?
So a couple things. One, I think it's really interesting that Nick Cannon got the role over T.I. and Lil Wayne, just because I just can't imagine either of them playing the role of Devin Miles, especially not Lil Wayne. It was a very young Lil Wayne in the early 2000s, but I just can't see that. And then one thing that actually didn't make the oral history is a lot of people were just talking about how much Nick Cannon wanted this role of Devin Miles, and I was kind of talking to him about it, and I asked him, what's one thing you never told anybody about Drumline and getting this role? And he was like, actually, when we got to Atlanta and started filming, Nick Cannon said he made a vow to himself to be celibate the whole time that they were filming. And he was like, that's just how committed I was to this role. It was his first big movie role. So he said that it was tempting in Atlanta in the early 2000s with all the women down there, but he made a vow to himself that he wasn't going to be getting it in with anybody.
Last thing I'll ask you, Aaron, is this. Do you like the movie better now as a result of having written this story?
I wouldn't say I like it better. I think I appreciate it a little more just because I learned about some of the nuances of the film. And I just appreciate just how hard these actors worked to bring this subculture to life. And, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, this is the starting point for a couple actors and entertainers in the beginning of their careers, because this was before Zoe Saldana was Zoe Saldana. This was before Nick Cannon was Nick Cannon. So I just think that I appreciate it more now looking back and what they did to kind of jumpstart their careers with this film.
He's Aaron Dodson. He writes for The Undefeated, and you can catch him Saturday mornings reviewing college football unis. Thanks, AA.
Thanks, Quentin.
Shannon, what do you think about Drumline? You like that movie?
I enjoyed the movie, actually, overall. As someone, I played in the band in high school, senior in high school, didn't play it in college, and I attended 2 HBCUs, so I appreciated the movie. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. The only problem that I did have, though, right, the only problem that I found that was a stretch there was the fact that Nick Cannon's character, coming in as a freshman, was able to get the hottest girl on campus. I mean, she was in a sorority, and she was the head of the dance line, and he was able to bag her. That seems a bit unrealistic. Maybe I'm just, maybe I'm selling myself a little bit short here. Maybe I should have been shooting my shot a bit higher freshman in college. I don't know. I found that a bit unrealistic.
So you're saying that the process.
Exactly right. He had to work his way up. You just can't start right at the top. You got to, find another freshman out there, maybe at freshman orientation, meet her. Got to work your way up. It's like Mario. You don't get Koopa right from World 1, right? You gotta go through the first 3 levels and then get to Bowser.
That's why he's Nick Cannon, though. You know what I'm saying? He's a gigolo, spending lots of dough. I like that song. Don't at me. It's a good one. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is celebrating 5 years and more than 500 cars donated to vets. To learn more, visit keystoprogress.com. Coming up, my mother's favorite person on ESPN, not named Clinton, and it's her birthday. Herm Edwards. We're going to talk to him next. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones. It's the right time on ESPN Radio. If you travel for business, you know it's a game of wins and losses. Popping open an overhead bin and finding it empty, that's a win, kid. Sleeping through a wake-up call, that is a loss, fam. Buying your business trip at Upside.com, well, that's not just a win, it's a triple win. Number one is Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotel, and rental cars. Win number two is that Upside will reward you with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. And number three is the amazing 6-star treatment from Upside's customer service specialists, who they call Navigators. Upside Navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 on the Upside app, even reaching out to you to help you avoid a problem before it happens. And now I'm going to start your Upside 6-star treatment right now. Go to Upside.com and use the code BOMANI, and you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. That's code BOMANI for a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
To the Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Clinton Yates filling in here on a Friday. All guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Penzo Performance Line. And joining us on that line right now is Herm Edwards, ESPN NFL analyst. Herm, we got to go straight to Oakland. We got to talk about Marshawn. I got to ask you, number one, it's a two-parter about this.
Sure.
First of all, have you ever had a guy pop off the sideline and run such a distance to get involved in a scuffle? And what did you think about the fact that he was there to defend someone who was his boy, but not on his own team?
Well, it was an odd look at a really terrific football game, and it's obviously been talked about and discussed all day today. I think if you know a little bit of the background and you know a little bit about Marshawn's history, he's going to sometimes do things that appear very awkward to a lot of folks, but to him, not so much. With that being said, I think that going forward now, I think if you're the Oakland Raiders, you got to ask yourself this question. There was much anticipation of him being a Raider. And, he's from there, does great work in the community there. We know all those things. With that being said, 2 carries last night. Two carries. 2. Like, just 2. That's it.
Dose.
Yeah. That's not a good number. And here's the problem going forward. And you can talk to him about, hey, you can't run on the field. He's run on the field. That's a foul. And I was explaining this to him, and he's well aware. He's a smart enough guy to figure it out. He knows. The only reason we won that game last night is because the Kansas City Chiefs had 2 fouls at the end of the game that extended the game. And you running out there getting a personal foul could have extended the game for them, gave them a first down. And let's just say they needed that to complete a pass for a touchdown, and we lose that game. Now we've lost 5 in a row, and I understand that, Peters is your guy, and you guys grew up, and you're a mentor, but these 50 other 3 guys on this team, they're your guys too. So, look, when you signed on to bring him in, you knew that there was going to be some odd situations that come up. That's the history of the guy, and you know it. But going forward, I think this is what's more concerning if you're them. Because if he's only carrying the ball twice in a football game and he's on the sideline when the offense is on the field, guess where the cameras are going? They're going to the bench area. They're going to figure out, what is Marshawn Lynch doing, because he's not in the game. Is he sitting on the bench? Is he sitting on the water cooler? Is he taking his shoes off? Who knows? So you're going to have to deal with that. But you know what? You signed on for that. Now, Some people will tell you that, look, and I'm the first to say this. Sometimes we look at other people, the way they do things, and they say they're dysfunctional. No, for a lot of teams, that could be normal. As long as you're winning, it don't matter. You remember in high school what we used to do? You play basketball, boy, and there's that hot sock right after the basketball game, man. You put some of that perfume on, you ain't taking no shower. But you smell good, but an hour later, you ain't smelling real good. And so this is all fun and games right now because you won a game last night. But you start losing, you got a lot to deal with.
On the other side of the ball, Coach, the Chiefs, I mean, they've lost 2 in a row now. I think most importantly is that they're dropping a division game, and from a conference standpoint, they need this because that division is still strong. What'd you learn about that squad, even in the loss?
Well, I think the glaring thing that keeps coming out is if they can't take the ball away on defense, because that's just what they do, or sack the quarterback, they got issues in the back end of their defense. This is the most penalized secondary in the National Football League. Okay? So when you watch the game unfold last night, look, we know the numbers. When you go back to throw 50 passes in a game, until last night's win, the record of quarterbacks that did that this year was 2-14. He went back 52 times, and here's the big number. Didn't sack him. They didn't get an interception. And in the fourth quarter, they had 2 possessions, the Oakland Raiders, and they scored 10 points. So that's concerning.
Herm Edwards, ESPN NFL analyst, joins us here on The Right Time with Bomani Jones. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. Let's move on down to Carolina because this Cam Newton situation has a couple of different levels, and I just want to sort of lay it out for people. His run-in with the reporter in which he referred to, he used the word females, which I don't like. He made a blanket statement about women and their ability to understand football that was foul. Separately, her situation regarding use of the N-word came out, and now he is not talking to the media after she has thus returned to her job. If you're a coach right now, is this something where you feel you step in and say, Cam, you need to say something? Or because he's the leader of his team, do you allow him to handle this the way he's choosing to? And do you find this acceptable?
Well, no, because Cam's got to be bigger than that. And we all have to be bigger than that when we sit in the seat of leadership. And there's a lot of times, look, when you stand in the front of the masses, there's some things said, and you got to be bigger than that. And he's bigger than that. He says, Cam is a guy that, at times you say, why did he do that? Is he still, and we can say, well, he should know better than that. Well, he should know better than that, but he's still a guy, trying to find his way and all that kind of stuff. But this is where relationships become a big factor when you're a coach at any level. This is where you have to have that talk where you sit down and say, hey, look, this is going forward. You're going to play in this league a long time, and you're the face of this organization. You're one of the faces of the National Football League. It's important that you handle certain matters a certain way. And sometimes it will put you in an uncomfortable situation. We've all been there. But that's part of the deal, too. So I just think going forward, hopefully, this kind of simmers down and he'll think about it and he'll reflect and hopefully, by next week he'll do what he needs to do. All right,
Coach, I got a favor. Last thing I'm gonna ask you. Sure. My mom is a big fan of yours. Today is her birthday.
I gotta meet your mom.
Her birthday is today. Her name is Renee. Could you please wish her a happy birthday?
Renee, happy birthday, and you should be proud of your son.
Thank you, Coach.
He is representing your name very, very well. You raised him right, Mom. You done good with your son.
He's Herm Edwards. He's an ESPN NFL analyst. Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
The Right Time is brought to you by Nissan, a proud sponsor of the College Game Day Tour, live this Saturday from Pennsylvania as Michigan takes on Penn State. The Heisman House is back. Rush over to NissanHeismanHouse.com for more Heisman House. You like how I did that, Shannon?
That was dope.
Coming up, is Giannis the best competition for the Cavs in the East? We'll figure that out next. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones. It's The Right Time on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday, and we are presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Hit me up, fam. The 100 Flowers Twitter feed, at Clinton Yates, at ESPN Radio. Wouldn't mind taking some calls right now. 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Tonight, Cavs Bucks on ESPN. Coverage starts at 7 p.m. right after this program. It's a simple question, y'all. Who's the second best team in the East? I mean, the Celtics situation, as unfortunate as it is, has changed things. The Bucks are out here looking good. My Zardos look decent. The Raptors are still in the picture. Giannis is a monster. This is a big game tonight. National TV spot. The Bucks are sort of on that, are we second tier or are we not question? You got to figure that out tonight. Giannis out here baptizing cats. I mean, the way he plays is unfair on some levels. The way his range works in concert with his skill set and his speed and his smarts. Opa. I've never seen a basketball player like Giannis before. But I still don't know what the answer to this question is. Let me know what you think. 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. I'm inclined to say my Wizards. And I'm not just saying that because I root for them. I'm saying that because if you watched that series against the Celtics last year, that Celtics team, that series was a couple buckets from going the Wizards' way. Let's not make excuses for them. I'm just saying I think even Celtics fans will tell you that. It was almost like they had to win 5 games to win the series because of some of the mistakes they made. But the Celtics are a completely different team now. And they lost Gordon Hayward. Zardo's pretty much the same squad. Presumably they're getting better. Kelly Oubre looking good, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what argument there is that wouldn't allow you to just sort of slot them now.
Right.
And decide the rest later on continuity alone.
Yeah, that's actually where I was going to go here with you being a Wizards fan. Were you surprised or disappointed that Washington didn't go out and make any big moves? Like you had so many free agency and trades there in the league, and the Wizards decided to stand pat with the guys that they already have.
Yeah, but this is part of the Ernie Grunfeld situation. They were locked up. They didn't really have anything they could do, which was part of the initial problem, and that made so many people mad. I'm not going to get on some fire Ernie Grunfeld bit that everybody in D.C. keeps asking me to do because that's a whole separate discussion that I don't need to get into right now. But I'm also a believer in the fact that sometimes, fam, y'all just got to get better. Ain't nothing else to it. You got to make a whole bunch of moves to simply up your game in the offseason. I would say John Wall has done that to some regard. He was beasting on cats against the Sixers.
He looked big, too.
Right?
Like extremely muscular.
You know, Kelly Oubre is basically going to have to be the leader of that second unit if they expect to be any good,
right,
which is a role I like him in.
I can't take him serious with that haircut, but I digress.
With the pink in the back, you know, like that. Lil Uzi Oubre. That's 2 Uzi references.
One day, yes.
His hair is fine. But what I'm saying is that he's a stylish dude, as an aside. If you ever meet him, ask him about like Fashion Week and stuff. Dude is fly. Anyway, I like him in that role as sort of the leader of the second team and not just a spot bench guy playing with the ones. He can flourish. He can do his thing a little bit. He had a crazy putback dunk in that game against the Sixers. He's got a nice little role there for him. I didn't just start this to talk about my Wizards all night long, but I want your thoughts. 888-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Marcus in Virginia, you're on the air.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good, fam.
Good. Yeah, I agree. Wizards are the number 2 team in the East. John Wall, top 3 point guard in the league. Bradley Beal there's nobody in the league I don't think that has a better shot than him. He's also creating off the dribble. Otto Porter defending on the wing, and he's also got offensive game to complement now. Like you said, Oubre is also coming into his own. And until the Bucks prove something, they're really not much to talk about just yet. Toronto is, they are what they are. But I can't argue against Wizards being number 2.
Thanks for the phone call, Marcus. Well, that makes me happy. Bucks do have a lot to prove tonight. He's right. The Bucks are in show-be territory. I'm tired of just sort of hearing about the Bucks and seeing random highlights. Go ahead and beat somebody. Go ahead and beat the Cavs tonight. Holla at your boy. I'm sort of rooting for the Bucks. And by sort of, I mean completely. Tune in for college football action tomorrow as Louisville battles Florida State. It's presented by Dr. Pepper. Coverage begins at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. Coming up, got to talk about Lonzo Ball's debut. It was spoiled by the great Patty Beverly. I'm Clinton Yates. It's the right time on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back Monday for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Welcome to The Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Welcome back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. Guest on The Right Time up here via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Want to get in touch with me? You got 2 ways, kiddos. 1-888-SAY-ESPN. That's 1-888-729-3776. Or test your luck on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed. At ESPN Radio. At Clinton Yates. Disclaimer alert. If you come incorrect in my mentions, I will embarrass you in front of your friends and your family, and I will not apologize. Those are the rules. Safety first on a Friday. Got some news going on in the NBA. Looks like Chris Paul's going to be out. That's bad news for the Arugulas, a.k.a. the Houston Rockets. They are currently looking around. 2 to 4 weeks is what the diagnosis is. They're looking around for point guards. I just read one story by Tim McMahon that brings up Jameer Nelson's name. That's not exactly a 1-for-1. You think they might, they could use a guy like, I don't know, a Patty Beverly. I mean.
Like of all guys, right?
Of all guys. The guy you got rid of is a guy you could use.
Right. I do think the luxury, though, for Houston is having James Harden, a guy who was a primary ball handler last season in this D'Antoni system. So at least they have that. But I thought they were trying to get away from that this year,
Right. And it's unfortunate, too, for the rest of the league. I mean, we wanted to watch this experiment. We wanted to see how this was going to grow. Now we get shortchanged a little bit. Because a 2 to 4 weeker with a knee is one of those things that it's like, that could nag. That could take some time to do. I really hope this doesn't turn into a situation where we never really get to find out how good these two are because they never really got off to the right start. I mean, there are people that think there might be a karma element here.
Ooh.
But I'm not going to go that route.
And here's a big thing when it comes to Chris Paul. He is 32.
That's what I'm saying.
And those injuries are building up. And you can go from it being a nagging injury to a lingering injury.
That's what I'm saying. This is exactly my point, Shannon. Thank you. This is not good timing for a guy like him. But, it is what it is. The Arugulas are going to have to deal. And they probably wish they had Patty Beverly. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on The Right Time on ESPN Radio. That is so Bush League. It's like the 3rd time that's happened. I'm sorry. Speaking of Patty Beverly, last night he showed all of Los Angeles and America why he's one of my favorite players in the NBA. LeVar Ball walked in there, sitting behind the bench, talking a lot of trash. Some tweets were exchanged. The Twitter fingers were moving, Shannon. But when it came game time, Patty Beverly went into shutdown mode. And Patty Beverly's shutdown mode is my favorite kind of shutdown mode. When you look a guy in the face and you say, I'm about to shut you down. And then you proceed to said shutdown. And then you ask the person, what were you thinking? I just told you I was going to shut you down. He plucked his pocket a couple times. He knocked him over once or twice. Locked him up end to end. My kind of basketball. I love Patty Beverly. I was talking about that today on Around the Horn. Shit, and they asked us, if you were to be somebody in the NBA, who are you most like? I actually did name Patty Beverly.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
My man, that's my man. My man epitomizes my steez.
Mm-hmm.
Hand claps in your face.
Right.
Sometimes the hands might have to move. He's about that action. I'm not as about that action as I once was. I got a reputation to uphold, so to speak. But Patty Beverly is down for the get down at any time. Patty Beverly is the dude you want on your squad when it pops off. He might be my number one pick for dudes under 6'5" or whatever in that regard.
Right. We actually deemed him. We put him on a team here on the right time. And Patrick Beverly is, in fact, a Stay Ready All-Star.
Yes.
So
yes.
For those of you who aren't familiar, Stay Ready All-Star, look, as Bo would say, you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. Patrick Beverly is always prepared, just in case you never know when it's about to go down.
Right.
Patrick Beverly is always ready.
What's your man's name from the Bulls? Definitely an instant Stay Ready All-Star. Yes. They learned that lesson the hard way. Not that I necessarily believe the story coming out of Bulls camp that he did that with one punch, but Portis, Stay Ready All-Star as well. Anyway, Lonzo Ball basically got shut down by Patty Beverly, and LeVar Ball decided he wanted to take it upon himself to start talking trash about Patty Beverly. And I don't really understand what his end game here is in this very specific context. We talked to Arash Markazi earlier, ESPN senior writer, and he says he thinks that all this stuff from LeVar is just due to the fact that it was the first game. I'm willing to buy that. And again, I'm somebody who likes LeVar. But if he's out here putting his son in a situation like this, I don't know that I like that. It's one thing for LeVar to be sort of in the ether talking trash about how good his kid is. It's another thing for him to be individually trading verbal blows with players actually in the league. That's not a good look for anybody. Let's hear what he had to say about his delusional thoughts concerning the Lakers and the Warriors.
Here's what it is. Lonzo's not a one-on-one guy, but we're a team winner. And this is what I told him. Every 20 games, go 15-5. We good. We only got one loss. Guess what? We tied with Golden State right now. Didn't they lose the first opening?
Don't give me that.
Up there with them?
Don't give me that. One for six shooting, 3 points. I'm not trying to condemn him, but I'm just saying you said it was going to be bigger.
What's in the kitchen cabinet? He got to find out what's in there. You got to see what's going on. The times he was out, you seen him with no direction. When he get back in there, Neil, help me when I'm wrong now. When he was in there, it's very positive. Let's break it down. 1 for 6, it ain't about shooting. It's about rebounding, assists, catching the ball, running the lane. Somebody got to run down the middle of that floor. Don't make me bring my shoes out and run. I can get 20 points running down the middle.
Can we hold on? Let's cue that up again, and let's revisit Neil's reaction when LeVar tags him in, and he clearly wants no part of what's going on between him and Stephen A. So let's hear this again, and when LeVar says, "Neil, help me if I'm lying," just listen to his little chuckle.
Here's what it is. Lonzo's not a one-on-one guy, but we're a team winner, and this is what I told him. Every 20 games, go 15-5. We good. We only got one loss. Guess what? We tied with Golden State right now. Didn't they lose the first opening?
Don't give me that.
Up there with them?
Don't give me that. One for 6 shooting, 3 points. I'm not trying to condemn him, but I'm just saying you said it was going to be bigger.
What's in the kitchen cabinet? He got to find out what's in there. You got to see what's going on. The times he was out, you seen him with no direction. When he get back in there, Neil, help me when I'm wrong now. When he was in there, it's very positive. Let's break it down. 1 for 6, it ain't about shooting. It's about rebounding, assists, catching the ball, running the lane. Somebody got to run down the middle of that floor. Don't make me bring my shoes out and run. I can get 20 points running down the middle.
Neil just squeezes out a little muster of a laugh because he doesn't want to actively disrespect LeVar. But he is not here for that nonsense. Stephen A. can engage that foolishness. That's cookout stuff. Neil is just sort of there like, I don't really know what to do. That's like, Shannon, like when you're on the bus or like on the train and two people are arguing and you're sort of like in between and you don't really know what to do. So you just sort of awkwardly act like you're not on either side. Neil was in a tough spot there.
The image macro after the Joe Budden Migos get down a couple of months back.
Right. Wrap it up then. Neil Everett did a great job with that. But, let's be real. Lonzo Ball got completely dominated by Patty Beverly. And that's what should have happened. That's what was always going to happen, and that's what did happen. He'll learn. That being Lonzo, not so sure about LeVar. Coming up, Mike Golic Jr., Gojo, is going to join us to talk a little college football. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones. It's the right time on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Back to the right time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and guests on the right time appear via the Shell Penzo Performance Line. Never do what they do, Shannon. Great video and a great song.
It's the also song of the day, What They Do by The Roots. This song came out 21 years ago. It was released in September of 96.
Wow.
Yeah.
We played that song because I did something that is a little bit exclusive in D.C. Went to The Roots and Bilal's Tiny Desk concert at NPR. That was fun. Snapped a creepy picture of Questlove. And I got to see them play, so that was exciting. Anywho, joining us right now on the Shell Penzo Performance Line, Mike Golic Jr. What up, Gojo?
What's going on, man? I don't have any stories about me having any kind of proximity to Questlove, so I feel under-equipped to come into this conversation right now.
Okay, well, you know what? Staying on that, you are in South Bend. You are clearly who you are. I need to know what your clout score is walking around campus as who you are these days and just in town in general. What kind of receiving line do you have? What is your entourage situation? What is your plan this weekend when they face off against USC, big-time rivalry?
All right, well, look, first off, we keep the entourage tight at this point, man. Like, a little while out now, got to keep the circle small, move close, everything like that. The reception's been nice. I'm not going to lie. I got back. I had a couple of things, events on campus that I went and talked at briefly and stuff like that. So it's good to be home, man. And for the first time all year, you want to come out and make sure they haven't totally forgotten about you yet. Like, our biggest claim to fame was getting to and then getting our butts kicked in a national title. So at the very least, like, they're still cool enough to pat us on the back and tell us it's all right around here.
Well, in regards to that, let's talk about what this rivalry is to a guy like you. You obviously played at Notre Dame. SC at Notre Dame is a thing, but it hasn't it's a thing every once in a while. You got two good teams now. Where is the state of this rivalry beyond this specific football game, in your opinion?
I think it's strong. I mean, it's always going to be strong for the parties involved, but we know the national appeal kind of changes with the rankings. Like, my last year when we played them, we had both completely flipped. USC had started that season in 2012, preseason number one. We were preseason, I think, down low in the 20s, and by the time we played, we were number one in the country. They were unranked, but still within that locker room, like, we were playing a de facto playing game at that point, Clinton. So we knew we won that game. We were 12-0. We're in the title. I'm sitting in the hotel with my dad the night before the game, and I looked at him, and I was like, I know all this stuff is on the line, but, like, this is the only thing I care about. Like, when you sign on the dotted line to come and play at Notre Dame, one of the things you sign up for is a chance to go out and beat Southern Cal. And for a team that had beaten us on our home turf a couple of times, we went out there ready and willing to return the favor to them. So there's a sweetness that comes with winning this game all on its own. And we know this time around, there's a lot on the line. This is basically a playoff game for both of these teams. The loser is effectively out of that Final Four hunt. So even with all on the line, inside that locker room, it's more than enough to just go out and win this game and let us worry about the rest of this nonsense.
Gojo's fired up, y'all. I like it. I like it a lot. Mike Golic Jr. joins us on the Shell Penzo Performance Line. The Right Time is brought to you by The Home Depot, a proud sponsor of the College Game Day Tour, live this Saturday for Pennsylvania as Michigan takes on Penn State. The Home Depot, the next generation of home improvement with everything you need to do projects smarter. The Home Depot, more saving, more doing. All right, let's get to the game. Sam Darnold was supposed to be the golden child and so on and so forth, coming in for SC. Had such a great season last year. What do you think about how he's progressed this season as a sophomore?
I think it's been a little bit of what I expected. I said, you got to remember last year, this kid wasn't supposed to be the guy going into last season. Like, it took them 3 games before they finally decided, you know what, we got to make a change here. And then he came in and caught fire, and then all this got dumped into his lap. I remember seeing the interview he did with Marty Smith, our own Party Marty, going out to Southern Cal and hanging out with him. And this looked like a kid who, unlike a lot of the star quarterbacks that come out now who are groomed from such a young age, who believe that that top overall pick is sort of their manifest destiny, like, you had this kid that seemed very much surprised by the level of fame and the expectation that's come with that success he had last year. And I think we've seen some of those growing pains of a kid that only played in 10 football games last year. And so seeing the little moments like that we saw at the end of the game against Texas, like we've seen as they've had to overcome adversity in the game against Washington State, like, this is a guy that's still learning how to be the best version of the football player himself. He's got tons of talent, and he turns it on in the big moments, which is what you want to see from a guy that I can still feel comfortable calling a young kid relative to his football lifetime that's hopefully going to be a long and prosperous one for him. So the talent is enough to make you worried, especially for Notre Dame, that traditionally struggles a little bit getting some of the athletes in the secondary that can keep up, A, with the athletes we see in the Pac-12, and B, with a guy that can actually throw guys open and put the ball where it needs to be.
What should we be looking for on the Irish side of the ball?
On the Irish side of the ball, healthy Brandon Wimbush. We're hearing that the foot that kept him out of the game against North Carolina is going to be a go for him. This is an offense that's basically operated almost like a triple option team, and their rushing numbers on the season are right up with Georgia Tech and Navy and these teams that are running the ball almost exclusively, and yet Notre Dame is putting up darn near 300 yards a game. Josh Adams has looked like a Heisman Trophy contender in the middle of the season the way he's been running the ball, and their home run threats, man, like, that's the biggest difference. We ran so much zone and these plays that were designed to get 5 yards in a cloud of dust, and occasionally we pop one, but they've got a bona fide home run hitter. They're running a lot of man scheme runs that give you these big gaping holes, and Josh is more than capable of taking it 60-plus yards to the house. I mean, outside of Bryce Love out at Stanford, who gets that Pac-12 after dark syndrome, Josh Adams is that next level of big-time home run hitter. So that offense being able to dictate pace and having Brandon Wimbush as that run threat at the quarterback spot to hold the backside, that's what it's all about, and that's what they're going to need to win.
Talk with Mike Golic Jr. here on The Right Time with Bomani Jones. I'm Clinton Yates filling in on a Friday. All right, let's switch gears to the other big game of the weekend, Michigan going out to Penn State. What are they supposed to do to stop Saquon Barkley? I mean, this dude is all over the place. How do you prevent him from eating your team alive?
Load up in the box and make Trace McSorley beat you. Like, Trace McSorley is a quality quarterback. He's one of the better in the Big Ten, but he's still a guy that's going to give you some 50-50 balls on occasion. And Michigan, they've got some things to work through on offense, so it's going to be incumbent on your defense to try and turn the ball over some. Load up that blocks, make sure you stop public enemy number 1 in Barkley, and then you have to get your offense some extra possessions. John O'Korn, we know Wilton Spate now out for the year. O'Korn's a guy that's working through accuracy. They're trying to figure out what this offense looks like from him. Give him multiple chances. You've got to steal those away in a game like this in a hostile road environment where you know that Penn State crowd's going to come correct.
All right, last thing I'm going to ask you, Gojo, switching gears here to things we care way more about. We were having a discussion during the break about Hershey Kisses. Hershey Kisses. My opinion is that they are seasonal delights, not generally underrated in the family of snacks. Where are you on Hershey Kisses as we approach candy holiday season in the fall?
I'd agree with you. Like, it's the perfect bowl combination with another snack. Think something a little more savory, something with a little more salt to it on the outside, and then you've got the Hershey Kiss as that sort of counterpunch to everything. But I'm with you. The candy cane stripe ones are great around the holiday season. You don't need to make it a mainstay. Let it be special. Let it be something you only have to work for once a year to open up those cumbersome little wrappers. I'm totally with you. Make it a seasonal treat. Keep it special.
He's Mike Golic Jr. He's a college football analyst. You can hear him on ESPN radio, and he knows his snacks. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Clint. Have a good one, man.
No problem. Coming up, Chris Singleton's going to talk some baseball with us. I told you Gojo would be on the right side of the Hershey Kisses. Don't at me, Playboy. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. If you travel for business, you know it's a game of wins and losses. Popping open an overhead bin and finding it empty, that's a win. Sleeping through a wake-up call, that's a loss. Buying your business trip at Upside.com, well, that's not just a win, it's a triple win. Number one is Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotels, and rental cars, y'all. Win number two is that Upside will reward you with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. And number three is the amazing 6-star treatment from Upside's customer service specialists, who they call navigators. Upside's navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 on the Upside app, even reaching out to you to help you avoid a problem before it happens. And I'm going to start your Upside 6-star treatment right now. Go to Upside.com and use the code BOMANI, and you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. That's code BOMANI for a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. Upside.com, you deserve a better business trip. Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Welcome back to The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. All guests on The Right Time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And joining us right now is Chris Singleton, ESPN MLB analyst. He'll be on Yankees versus Stros. Game 5 pregame starts at 7 p.m. Chris, I almost got laughed out of the studio when I said on television that the Stros might simply not be up for the moment of playing big games in Yankee Stadium, and they didn't seem to win one there. What do you think the effect was for this team on the road?
Well, they definitely got dazed by big-time punch, and I think for me it was Game 3. Not once the game started, but it was the pregame ceremonies and announcements when the players line up. So first the Astros get announced, and they're on the third baseline. And, you know, the noise hasn't started yet. But all of a sudden when the Yankees were getting announced and the noise in that stadium, I was like, ooh, here's a taste that the Astros probably haven't, had yet. Probably a little bit in Boston, but, this is real. And obviously all it took was, some runs and some pretty good pitching to get the crowd involved even more, to a point when I was talking to Rob Kukuza, who's the equipment manager for the Yankees, and he told me, I think it was before Game 5, that Game 4 was the first time ever in this new stadium that down, in the bowels of Yankee Stadium, that his office was shaking during the game because of the noise in the stadium. So you could see it had an impact without question on the bullpen for the Astros, and it obviously with the lack of offense to the Astros hitters, it had an effect. So if we to discredit that, I think 99% of people are wrong, because any former player or someone you talk to that's played games in Yankee Stadium, be it the old one, which was probably more intimidating, but even this new one. I mean, New York is a special place, and people are passionate, and it gets real in a hurry.
That said, shifting things back to Houston, you're obviously at the Yard right now. What has it been like in terms of the vibe there at this stage, coming back in the scenario that they're in?
It's very sober. It really is. When talking Astros people, they were on cloud nine. Just last weekend, after winning the first two games and winning in dramatic fashion on Saturday with Justin Verlander's heroic performance going the distance, and the walk-off double by Carlos Correa scoring Jose Altuve. It's definitely a lot different than it was last time we were here, and even with the players and coaches, a lot more sober. They understand the reality of what they're up against tonight. But with that said, they are positive, the best they can be, and they should be, because they're back at home, and home field has been really good, to teams in the postseason, and particularly these two teams that are going tonight. So, you couldn't ask for a better guy to have on the mound if you're the Astros and Justin Verlander, and I think they are, in being, reflective, they are very happy they were able to get him before September 1st, because prior to that, a move wasn't made in July that this team desperately needed to add a starting pitcher.
We're talking with Chris Singleton, ESPN MLB analyst, here on The Right Time with Bomani Jones. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in here on a Friday. By the by, the road to the World Series goes through ESPN Radio. Catch all the postseason action presented by AutoZone on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. Aaron Judge, what's going on in terms of his swing and what he's tinkered with to get him back to a state where he is the bopper he once was in the regular season?
It's just patience, and let's make no mistake about it. I mean, pitching in the postseason is typically really good, and it's tough for hitters. And sure, he went through the season, hit 52 home runs, and just like a lot of other guys, I mean, you can look at guys on the Astros as well that during the regular season are great, but you get in the postseason and you're facing the best arms. And so when you've got really good pitching, when you've got a big strike zone that Aaron Judge has, and many times, when you look at the stats, he's had the third most balls low and out of the zone called for strikes on him. The guy's 6'7". So a combination of all those things. There's nothing necessarily mechanically that you can say, okay, needs to do this, needs to get the front shoulder, keep it tight. It really comes down to being able to relax, being able to zone in, and put that same swing, but just with a slightly different timing, and that's been the difference. So the great thing about Aaron Judge is that whether he strikes out 4 times or he hits 4 home runs, you wouldn't know the difference. I mean, he's such a team guy and such a selfless player. It's one thing to say it, but this guy says it, and I believe, it's felt from the bottom of his heart. So that's what makes him so special, along with, his 6'7" frame that hits, 500, foot home runs, is that he doesn't carry any sort of burden personally or selfishly on his performance. His thing is that, however I can help the team, whether it's a walk, whether it's a great play defensively, whether it's taking an extra base, so I think that's really all it is, and we can look forward to, I think, many years of just amazing, things that this young man does on the field.
You mentioned Verlander earlier. Obviously, his playoff pedigree, particularly in the last 10 games, is great. But what are you expecting out of Luis Severino from the Yanks side tonight?
Well, just personally, if I've got to, pick and predict what I think is going to happen, I think it's going to be tougher for Severino tonight. And I think it's going to be a little tougher for Justin Verlander as well. And this is why. When you see a pitcher, twice within a span of a week, there's an adjustment that gets made. And whether it's, the pitcher adjusting to the hitters because he didn't have success or vice versa. And when you go on adjustments, and let's just say both of these pitchers are going to have the same challenge in front of them, Severino's he's a young pitcher, and at 23, 24 years old, I know he's pitched well on the road this year, but this is a big game. This is the biggest game of his life to this point, and Justin Verlander has been here before, and I think that for an offense in the Astros that's been uncharacteristically cold, you kind of feel like they're due to break out. And if they're going to break out, this would be the guy to do it with, because they're a good fastball hitting team. Severino's average fastball is upper 90s. So that kind of mix, I think, if I was to guess, would not favor Severino on this night.
Last thing I'll ask you, Chris. I am born and raised in D.C. I'm a monster Nats fan, and Dusty Baker is no longer going to be managing the team. You tweeted earlier that you didn't think he was the issue. Tell me a little bit about what you feel about that decision coming from the learners, the owners.
Yeah, I think the Nationals have, they're more internal issues in terms of, really being able to produce a winner, a championship team, a team that can, definitely get out of the first round of the playoffs. It's not the manager. It's not Dusty Baker. In fact, if anything, I think it's Dusty Baker that gets them there, because you can say whatever you want to say about Dusty Baker as far as, in-game managing and moves and all that. But you also need to look at how great he is at keeping a team together. His guys playing for him and wanting to play for him, and being able to manage personalities and all that. I mean, he is one of the best that I've ever seen during my time in the game. And I know that there's so many former players. I mean, I don't run across people that played for Dusty that, don't still care for the man. And I think when you look at some of the personalities and the guys that they have in terms of your Harpers or Scherzers or Wirths, and, you just have you have a motley crew of different personalities like a lot of teams. But when you look at that, that's not an easy thing to do, to manage that and keep it together. and accomplish the goals, which first and foremost is winning the division and getting to the postseason, and then you go from there. So for me, I can't see a scenario that of a manager that's available out there that's going to come in and do the job that Dusty did and have the success, or get the Nationals where they think someone else can get them. They said it's a baseball decision. I don't see someone else coming in with a secret sauce that's going to get the Nationals, further along. I think they've got to perhaps, kind of remove themselves a little bit, let the people on the field and people in the clubhouse do what they're supposed to do instead of perhaps being so involved during the season of things that are going on, on the field and in the clubhouse, and kind of empower your people and trust them and build that confidence that you do trust them and let them do their thing. But, you got to be good in this game, and you also have to be lucky. And, timing's everything.
He's Chris Singleton. He's an ESPN MLB analyst. You can check him tonight. Pregame starts at 7 p.m. Yankees, Stros, Game 5. Thanks, Chris.
All right, Clinton. Thank you.
If you haven't heard, coming up, why Beast Mode didn't exactly have a great look. I'm Clinton Yates. It's the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio. If you travel for business, you know it's a game of wins and losses. Popping open an overhead bin and finding it empty, that is a win, fam. Sleeping through a wake-up call, that's a loss, Playboy. Buying your business trip with Upside.com, well, that's not just a win, it's a triple win. Number one is Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotels, and rental cars. Number two is that Upside will reward you, easy for me to say, with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. And number three is the amazing 6-star treatment from Upside's customer service specialist, who they call navigators. Upside navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 on the Upside app, even reaching out to you to help you avoid a problem before it happens. I'm going to start your Upside 6-star treatment right now. Go to Upside.com and use the code BOMANI, and you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. That's code BOMANI for a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. Upside.com, you deserve a better business trip. Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Clinton Yates filling in here on a Friday. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, and guests on the right time appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. A little late now, but you can still get at me through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at Clinton Yates, at ESPN Radio. Let's go over the guests. Arash Markazi, ESPN senior writer, came on from Los Angeles, talked to us about the LeVar Ball situation, touched a little bit on what's going on with the Chargers and the Rams, more specifically what's not going on with the Chargers. And we talked about the Dodgers and what things are like in Los Angeles, considering they've made their first World Series since 1988. That was a fun convo. After that, Aaron Dodson of the undefeated Young Dottie came on to talk about his oral history of the movie Drumline. It's 15 years old now. Nick Cannon, you might recall, playing a drum major, was one of the first introductions in mainstream America of black band culture, I would say, to a wide audience. After that, Herm Edwards, ESPN NFL analyst, joined us. Talked a little football, talked about Marshawn Lynch, talked about the situation regarding Cam Newton, and he wished my mom a happy birthday, which is cool because she likes him. After that, Mike Golic Jr. came on. You know him from First and Last and Weekend Observations. We discussed what's happening this weekend in South Bend. SC is taking on Notre Dame, that's Southern California, as well as another game that's big in the college football world, Michigan and Penn State, and he has a tremendous opinion on where Hershey Kisses belong on the rating scale. Lastly, we talked to Chris Singleton, ESPN MLB analyst, who is at Yanks Stros tonight, about what's happening with that team now that the Stros are back home in the Astrodome. But, Shannon, let them know what they might have missed.
All right, the NBA kicked off this week. We had a very interesting matchup last night. They had the Thunder and the Knicks, and Carmelo Anthony debuting for the Knicks, as well as Paul George. And if you haven't heard, here's a bit of Carmelo discussing playing against his former team.
Carmelo, you talked a little bit about closure this week. Do you feel like you got that tonight?
Yeah, that chapter is closed. No more Knicks talk.
Carmelo went on to say that I'm paraphrasing. He said, "I can't speak for PG, but it's going to take some getting used to getting all of these open shots." So
that's pretty hilarious.
So I hope he's happy where he is. It's like seeing the ex, you know, And you honestly, you want to see him do well, but at the same time you don't, because you want him to be as miserable. You want
going out more.
You want to see him as miserable as you are. But in all sincerity, like I wish Melo the best, and I'm glad he got away from that organization out there in New York.
He scored what? How many did he have?
He only had 22. He shot like 8 of 20. But
only
still,
had 22, right. Shot 8 for 20, so.
Right. And we have an exciting game tonight with the Bucks and the Cavs. It should be fun watching Giannis Antetokounmpo against LeBron James. You'll see this game out there, and I'm sure folks will be tweeting about it on social media. And you may see a hashtag with Dwayne Wade's name in it.
Okay.
He's the starting point.
I'm going to let that slide.
He's the starting 2-guard for the Cavs.
Because you botched Giannis's last name and got through it.
How? I said Antetokounmpo.
Okay, you said it that time, but you sort of fudged.
Wait, how did I say it last time?
I got you on that. Coming up, Yankees versus Stros, Game 6. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I'm Clinton Yates. It's The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to The Right Time podcast. Please come back Monday for more, and don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.